Act 2 this morning here on BBC One, and we join Clive Mason for See Here.
Welcome to See Here. On display are the children's pictures which have made it to the finals of the British Deaf Association's Christmas card competition. And with me in the studio are my fellow judges. They are Sheila Gregory from the BDA and the actress Geraldine James. We're going to be deciding on the winners and letting you know at the end of the programme. Geraldine launched the competition on See Here a few months back. Geraldine, good morning.
Good morning.
Now, what do you think of the standard of the entries?
It's looking very exciting. We've got a lot of very colourful, bright, exciting, original ideas here, and it's going to be difficult to choose the best.
Well, let's have a look at some of them. Remember, there were two age groups. I particularly like some of the younger children's jolly deaf snowmen. But let's get to work. Come on.
Can we only choose one from each group?
Yes, afraid so.
Because there are different things. It's the imagination and the way it's done.
While they make up their minds, here's something more seasonal and summery. It's nearly holiday time, and many of you will be planning trips abroad. If you're going to an EC country, then you'll find the rules have changed about what you can bring back in the way of wines and other drinks. Does this affect duty-free too? Well, Clive took a trip to France for See Here. Lucky chap. To do some shopping and check out the new regulations.
On the 1st of January 1993, the single European market came into being, in theory removing internal trade barriers within the European community. So there's no need to pay any extra duty on duty-paid goods purchased abroad. But even our intrepid travellers at See Here are confused as to what one can now bring back and what the difference is between duty-free and duty-paid. Duty-free shops on ferries, in airports and in the air sell things which have not been taxed because they're outside national borders. It's a perk which will eventually be phased out by the year 2008.
Oh, thank you.
Well, as there are no trade barriers, Does that mean I can buy as much as I'd like in the duty-free shop? Sorry, no. Limits and allowances on duty-free goods haven't changed. You're still restricted in what you can bring back. It's still a litre of spirits and 200 cigarettes. But people travelling between EC countries have a bonus. For them, the allowance is effectively doubled, since you can pick up your allowance on both the outward and the return journeys, provided you have actually set foot on the other side. I'm not in wholesale wines and spirits. This is Mammouth Hypermarket, just on the outskirts of Calais. It's a popular stop for the hundreds of shoppers from the UK who come here every weekend. What's the attraction to buying here and not in Britain?
We actually just came for the day out, but whenever we come, we always buy plenty of wine to stock up and get back home, plus beer, because it's cheaper, obviously.
Value for money, it's the cheap table wine as far as I'm concerned, and obviously the beers, they're very good.
Well, anything you purchase here has already had the local tax or duty paid, hence the term duty paid. And the French don't have nearly such high taxes on wines, beer and spirits as the British. That's a nice one. How much is that? Let's see. Translated, that's £2.50. That's not bad. I'm going to buy some of that, I think. Now, for example, the excise duty on beer in the UK is 35 pence a pint, compared with about 3 pence in France. The differences are even more marked on a bottle of Scotch, as much as £3 to £4 dearer than the same product bought in France. Before 1993, this is what you could have. Looks quite impressive, doesn't it? But what about now? Since January the 1st, how much am I allowed now? Let's have a look. Well, I'm looking forward to this. What am I allowed to have, personally, my own allowance, to take back home? I'm going to fill the car up with it and take it home and have a good time, I think. Gosh, all this. What a lot. How am I going to get it all in the car? Good grief. Now remember, when you get back from the EC, the old green and red channels at customs have gone too. But you'll still have to declare any items over the top. And customs officers are still there, looking out for contraband and illegal imports. But our trip wasn't all spent stocking up in the supermarket. While I was there, I seized the opportunity to meet up with Marc and Veronique, a deaf French couple. They showed me around Calais and showed me something of everyday life in France. Now, looking at your traffic lights, I think is interesting. You've got these high-level ones, and you've got another set lower down. Why is that? Well, for drivers who stop at the lights, the one in front would have to crane his head to see the top ones because they're so high, so we have another eye level.
And of course you've got high-seated vehicles, coaches and the like, and they can see the high ones.
All right, I understand.
And they can interchange higher or lower.
I quite like your pedestrian lights too.
That's
In
right.
England they're like this, and I like the ones you have. They're very much nicer. Look out, it's red, isn't it? Now we can go. Come on.
Now we can go.
Sorry about that. Yes, thank you. Oh, look.
Delicious.
Now, you have your lunch at, say, noon or whatever, then maybe at 4 o'clock, if you're feeling a bit peckish, you come and have something from here. Any of these.
But not these, they're for morning.
And we don't always eat baguettes. We have different kinds of bread. There's lots of different kinds here. Well, I mean, we see French people eating baguettes all the time. You do, don't you? Yes. But what about all these other different kinds of bread? Well, the baguettes are a bit ordinary, really. We have bread that we slice. I mean, it's okay. But what about these round ones?
Yes, you can get the round ones.
Well, I think they're a bit more substantial than the others. People who've been working come and they want something a bit more filling. Which is
Very
what they
heavy
are.
and filling.
Okay, let's have a look down here. Fantastic, isn't it? Now, in England, we wouldn't have this. We'd have a fish shop, and we would buy wine in a separate place. You've got them together here. Well, yes, when you've bought your fish, you need to buy your wine to go with it, don't you? You need to be able to get the right kind of wine, and all these wines are very, very good.
Very good.
And they're ideal for going with your fish, either for cooking with or for drinking.
You can swap between this one or that one. Come on.
Now, tell me the story about this. Well, these were the burghers of Calais in the past. The English were trying to take over Calais, and they surrounded it, and the gates were locked, and they couldn't get in. See, the English told these burghers that they wanted to get into the city and asked for the keys. You can see he's got them there. But they wouldn't hand them over, and they threatened to hang this guy unless they did. And they thought about it for a while, and then in the end the French handed over the keys, and then the English took Calais, and we've been friends since then. Right, well, I think back home in England, just by Westminster, there's a similar statue to this one. We have one too.
Oh,
I haven't
so you
seen
have
that.
the
I haven't
same
been
thing.
there.
Great.
It's a big bottle of wine, isn't it? Well, yes, but you'd need a giant corkscrew to get that open, wouldn't you?
Now, shall we eat in here?
Think we should eat in here? Oh, please.
You going to? Great.
Great, thank you.
Oh yes, you've got to do that. That means bon appetit. It's like saying, enjoy your food. Okay, it's good manners.
Wonderful, thank you. No, do we do that
Oh,
for
no,
drinks
no.
as well? No, no, just for food.
No.
Right. Well, cheers. No, 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 no. Let's touch fingers is what we do.
Oh. Oh, the deaf way of saying cheers.
That's right, deaf people do that.
You good?
Now, what happens in the deaf club here? I mean, discos and dances, meals, drinks. I mean, what do you do? What's it like? Tell me a bit about it. Well, there isn't one here. No, there isn't one here. There's one in Lyon, there's another one in Paris, but not here. I mean, it's open every Saturday normally, but I don't go every week. It's a bit of a trek in the car. I go probably about once a month, really, and that's enough. Well, I go to a hearing club as well. But sometimes on a Saturday, if there's nothing to do, I'll go to the hearing club. We look at the list of what's going on and decide things we want to go to or things we're interested in, then we'll go to the deaf club then. So that's how it goes. Now, you're both deaf. How do you, get on with hearing people and deaf people? What sort of lives do you lead? Do you separate the two or mix them?
Well, it's difficult mixing with hearing people. When we were at school, obviously, we
That's
grew
right.
up with other deaf children. But then we lose contact through marriage and people move away from the area. About once a month we meet together, and that's really nice. But I think it's important to mix with hearing people and not just the older deaf people that are here. I like to mix with both deaf and hearing, the same really.
We've seen you on the telly.
Right.
Bye.
Thank you, bye-bye. Oh, that was very nice, thank you. Bye-bye. Been great, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Madam Speaker, what changes in the law is
It really was great fun meeting Mark and Veronique, and the food was delicious. I'm in the studio gallery because an important first is happening right now on BBC Two, on these monitors behind me. The first live broadcast from Westminster of Parliament in action with subtitles is happening right in the middle of our studio day. In the last few weeks, we've seen subtitles extended to weekend news bulletins, and last week was the launch of live subtitles on Newsnight. And there are more current affairs programmes to come in the autumn. But the campaign for access to Parliament has been a long one, and it's at last beginning to be successful. You can see Westminster Live on Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday afternoons on BBC Two. Now let's watch a bit of Prime Minister's Question Time.
under the Companies Act falls upon the directors of the donor company, not upon the recipient. And he is wrong in his latter comments. The payment itself would not be unlawful. The payment would not be unlawful. Only the failure to declare it in the company accounts would be, and that is a matter for the company, not the recipient.
But does the Prime Minister not understand that if the Conservative Party had to disclose it, the breach would have been revealed when the company acted illegally? Does he realise he can't sweep this matter under the carpet? That there are people in this country who believe that it is wrong that political parties should be financed in a furtive way, or that financed by excessively large donations from those who are not prepared to be publicly identified. The words of concerned members of the Conservative Party. Why can't he act in this matter to get a level playing field that will encourage honesty in British politics?
At last, access to a debate. It's fantastic. I've always wanted to be able to understand a parliamentary debate, and now I can. It's a great feeling. So we'll keep you up to date with developments. Meanwhile, don't forget that this year's Read Here Deaf You reunion is on the 26th of June on a boat called the Tattersall Castle on the Thames at Charing Cross. Details of how to get a ticket are on Read Here on CFAX page 710.
Do you know what this symbol means? It's the sign displayed by a solicitor who does legal aid work. And that means free legal advice or free representation if you need to go to court for people on low incomes. But since April, many of the people who once got free advice no longer qualify. The Lord Chancellor has changed the rules to try and cope with rising costs. For example, the income limit for people wanting legal advice under the Green Form scheme is reduced to £61 a week.
So what is Green Form legal advice?
Well, it covers the kind of advice you'd get in an interview with a solicitor. The Green Form is what the solicitor fills in to get payment. Green Form legal aid is really useful if you just need some preliminary legal work, like preparing divorce papers or sorting out a housing problem. It doesn't involve going to court. Solicitors can charge anything up to £100 an hour, so free advice is worth having.
So who's entitled to Green Form advice?
Well, you won't get Green Form legal advice if your disposable income is more than £61, or if you have more than £1,000 disposable capital. The level is supposed to be equivalent to income support. If you get disability living allowance, disability working allowance, or attendance allowance, these are discounted, so you'll still qualify. But if you get invalidity benefit, that will be assessed as income.
So if my income is over the limit, then I just won't get any advice free. What can I do?
Well, there are still some solicitors who will give a free first interview, or who may give free advice if they think you will get legal aid, or have a fair chance of winning when the case goes to court. But a lot more people will end up going to advice agencies, like the CAB, who are already under a great deal of pressure.
Okay, but now let's move on to legal aid itself. Has that changed?
Well, legal aid covers you when you go to court. Legal aid is free if your disposable income, after allowances for housing, family and work expenses, is less than £44 a week. Above £130 you don't qualify, but between £44 and £130 you'll have to make a contribution towards the cost. And that contribution is much more than it was before, a third of your disposable income every month while the case lasts. So on £90 a week, that would be a contribution of £120 a month. The Law Society calculated that for a family, a previous contribution of £30 could rise to £600 or more. Many more people will back away from legal action rather than face this kind of expense.
Right, so what will this mean?
Well, some people with a good case for, say, personal injury compensation will be put off going to court. Tenants with housing problems often are near the income limit, and they will lose out on both Green Form advice and legal aid if they are taken to court. But the biggest fear is over divorce proceedings. A lot of people going through divorce will have to try and represent themselves if they can't find the basic £200 or £300 for a solicitor.
Well, I can see how deaf people will be disadvantaged if they're denied access to solicitors and have to do their own legal work, especially in court. How else will it affect us?
Well, if you find yourself involved in a criminal case, there are also changes in how solicitors are paid for legal aid work. From this month, they get a standard fee for criminal cases in the magistrates' courts. So if you need communication support, you'll lose out. Under this system, there may not be enough time to deal with your needs fairly.
So what's being done about these changes?
Well, all kinds of groups have lobbied the Lord Chancellor, including the BDA. And the Law Society, who represent solicitors, have even taken him to court to protest over the changes. The campaign will continue.
Okay, and do let us know if you have a problem with legal aid, and we'll do our best to report on the situation. Now, I'd better get back to the judging of those Christmas cards.
We're still on the subject of access to law. There's a research project starting up soon, looking at the quality of court interpreters. Durham University have got some money to investigate the issue, and they'd like to hear from you if you've had experiences, bad or good, of using an interpreter in court. Get in touch with them direct or contact us at See Here. There's more information in this month's British Deaf News. Now Clive with the result of the Christmas card competition.
It's been a difficult job, but the winner in the older age group, 11 to 16s, is Lisa Claire Mingay, age 15, and that's this one. And the winner of the younger age group is Baljinder Kaur, age 10, and that's this one. And the BDA has decided to make this their Christmas card. So you'll be able to buy it later in the year. Now, why did you like this one, Geraldine?
I love this one because it's very Christmassy and he's a very happy snowman.
And what about you, Sheila?
I like the colours, very good. And also because he's a deaf snowman. Good.
Okay, well done to everybody who entered. We've had a lot of fun looking at your pictures. Next week, join me for the last magazine programme in the series and a look back at some of our best stories.